when I wake up in the morning, love.
So this right here is my 1999 Ford E350 with the 6.8 V10. It's a 4 winds 5000, around 22 feet, and I have named her Madea. And in Madea, I just got done doing all 25 states east of the Mississippi. I actually plan on doing all the 48 connected states of America, but for the East Coast, that took me around 15,000 miles. And overall, Madea does weigh 11,000 pounds, and she does have 75,000 miles. And those are, of course, very stressed miles when you're towing this much weight. And when I'm on the road living this thing full time, there's a lot of things that I find out that work really well. There's a lot of things that just don't work well at all. So in this video, we're going to be upgrading a lot of things, removing a lot of things, and actually adding a few new things. Now, to make sure I don't actually get stranded on the middle of nowhere, I want to make sure everything is mechanically solid on Madea right now. I got a long list of things that we got to do, but I'm actually going to start off with some new shocks. These are from Bilstein. These were like $100 each, but they should definitely improve the ride, especially since at the end of my last trip, the ride started to feel a lot like a yacht. Now, shocks are usually pretty easy. All you gotta do is just jack up the car, take off the wheels. Holy shit, those are rusted. And then unbolt the upper and lower bolts for the shock itself. So I'm actually replacing this part right here. And to actually get to that nut that's up here, I gotta snake a wrench or ratchet or something down through here and actually hold that and then take that off. And the bottom one, it's pretty easy. That's accessible. What are you doing, Mining? But now, since I live in Michigan, the top bolt was completely rusted, so I just ended up having to cut that off. And then for the bottom, the stud and nut actually rusted together. So when I took the nut off, I also snapped a part of the stud off with it. So I just ended up drilling through the radius arm and sticking a fat grade A bolt right through it. Alright, got it all full greased up. Shove it through. Alright, so we finally got everything in here. Took way too damn long. Absolute pain in the ass. But it's done. And now I went to the other side and luckily had zero problems with any studs or any just rusted bolts. I then also went to the rear and then once again had zero problems there as well. Alright. Go. So now I think that's gonna be everything for the suspension. Next up, I actually wanted to move to the engine, and now the engine is actually perfectly fine. It runs perfectly fine, but she has 75,000 miles on her, and I'm not sure if the spark plugs have ever been replaced. So I want to do those, especially with these Ford modular engines. They have a habit of blowing the spark plugs out of the block. Now, I've actually been holding off this project for a while because it is such a pain in the ass to replace spark plugs in these doghouse van models. But to sum it up, it's just a matter of getting a bunch of parts out of the way and just bungee cording a lot of like cables and stuff. Now, before I actually took the plugs out, I just sprayed everything down to get any dust or debris so nothing falls in after I take the spark plugs out. After that, I finally took them out and they all actually came out pretty easily. And also, if you just take a look real quick, you can actually see that these are Motorcraft brand. So I'm just going to go ahead and assume that these are the original plugs from 1999. And of course, I just went ahead and replaced them with brand new plugs. I went with NGK iridium, and while I was at it, I also replaced the ignition coil boots and put some dielectric grease in there. Now, I really didn't have any troubles putting everything back in. It just took me a while because every single time you do a spark plug, you have to snake your tools in and then snake them back out. And to fix the problem of these plugs shooting into orbit, I torqued them to 25 foot-pounds instead of Ford's recommended spec of just 11. Alright, now we're good. Alright, so I got everything put back together. Took me a little bit. The spark plugs weren't that bad. They're just annoying. But let's actually see how she runs now. And my battery is completely dead. So now, since my battery was dead and it was about 5 years old at this point, I just went ahead and bought a new one from Costco. I got an AGM Interstate battery. Now, while I was replacing my battery, I figured I might as well just upgrade my alternator to go along with it. I got one off of Rock Auto that was rated for 180 amps. And I don't actually know if it's 180 amps because when it was shipped out to me, it had a factory test result sheet that said this thing maxed out at 235 amps. But regardless of what it was, I knew that'd be better than the 30-year-old 130 amp that I was using in there right now. This upgrade was also really important for me because I have a spare house battery I definitely need to keep charged up. And I also have a 1200 watt subwoofer system that I'd definitely be using while I'm on the road. Now next up, I want to replace the brakes. I fully replaced the front ones with bearings and everything about a year ago. Y'all know what RV stands for. Race vehicle, boy, yeah. So for that, I just replaced the front pads. This is what came off, and that's supposed to be brand new. But I actually never even touched the rears even before I left for my first trip. But I took a look at them. The rotors still look fine. The pads were actually decent.
He's got some meat left to them.
So I just replaced the rear pads. I don't know if this was a smart thing to do. I probably should have just did the rotors, but we'll find out in the future. Now at the beginning of my Tennessee video, I mentioned that my muffler fell off. This happened because of a mixture of just the heat from going up the mountain and all of the rust from Michigan just corroded everything. But while I was on the road, I did a quick little repair to kind of help with the noise and gases coming up to the cabin, but I never actually did anything permanent, and honestly this didn't even work that well. And you can guess, with just a cat, Madea is pretty loud right now. And now to help out with that, I got a resonator. This doesn't really cut down on the overall noise much, but it helps with the lower RPMs. So mainly for the highway droning, this should definitely help. I also got a 90-degree bend, so that's just gonna go right here. Just gonna have the exhaust directing out of the cabin and not just sitting right in the middle. But to start, I actually just took off my old repair that I had on there. And then just mocked up the new exhaust to make sure everything would fit good, and then I got to welding. This was actually my first time ever welding exhaust pipe, so I actually did a few test welds on my old exhaust. And then after a while, I was feeling pretty confident, so I put some tack welds on the new exhaust and just went at it. Holy shit, that's terrible. Yeah, it didn't really look that good. That's fucking terrible. The main problem was the new pipe I was using was actually a different type of metal. So I was actually melting straight through the pipe that was on the top. I actually got used to this problem for a while, so I started laying down some decent beads. But after I was done welding at 90, I got back under Madea, mocked everything up again, and just welded underneath there. They're definitely not pretty at all. Yeah, they're definitely not pretty at all, but that's gonna hold. And to finish off this exhaust, I actually got some like heat reflective fabric type thing, because I actually had a storage unit right above the exhaust and I do not want to be melting that. But now it's just time to see how Madea ran after all these parts I put into her. And I gotta say, with the new exhaust, she sounds pretty damn good. And I can actually do a before and after for you guys real quick. And now to actually finish off all the mechanical work, I just wanted to do a quick little engine oil change.
My name is Enderdingus. Or shittings.
Dude, how fucking tight did I get this on there? Holy shit. Damn. There we go. Fuck. And then I wanted to move to the back to replace the diff fluid. This was kind of like everything else on this motorhome. I'm pretty sure it was original from 1999. So this was definitely a good thing to change. All right, I'm putting in the Valvoline 75W140. This is the proper oil for the Dana 60. This is also the proper oil for heavy duty towing. And Madea weighs 11,000 pounds, so I would say this is definitely the proper thing. You know you're at the right level when it starts oozing out after you've been filling it up. I put 3 quarts in, takes 3 quarts, so that's pretty good right there. Now that's actually it for all the mechanical work. Now we can actually finally move to the inside. Now Madea is actually pretty much set for everything that I need to live in here, but not to live comfortably. So it is currently 89 outside right now. It is 96 degrees in here. A really big problem I had in here in the summertime was how hot it got. Motorhomes typically don't have the best insulation, so when it's 90 degrees with direct sunlight beaming on the roof, it can easily get up to 100 degrees plus in here. And to combat this, I actually added some reflective insulation to all my windows. This is by far the best upgrade you can do if you're living in a van, car, or RV. It's just gonna reflect the sun out, which is the main reason why it gets so hot in here, but it's also gonna keep the heat in for when it's colder out. Also in my kitchen, I still had these like crappy little blinds that just came like stock with the motorhome. So I actually just replaced them with some nice blackout curtains that I just got off of Amazon. Another thing that lets in a lot of heat is roof vents. Mine are in terrible shape, so I just went ahead and replaced them, besides for the one by my solar panels because I couldn't actually remove it with the solar panels there. Then I went back into the inside and added some nice insulation foam on the inside of the vent, and then I actually just covered up with this nice little like Velcro reflective cover that also helps a lot with just keeping light out. And then I actually got one of those Velcro reflectors for my side door. But first I just had to reseal this window because it actually was leaking. That's why I was probably leaking. Is that just butyl? Yeah. That's probably why it's been leaking. And now after taking the window out, I had to clean the mounting surfaces. And then after that, I just stuck some new butyl on and mounted it back up. And then that was pretty much it for all the window and vent covers. And it stays folded up too. It's got magnets in it. Yeah, so if I want the sun to come in, like winter or something, well, I'm probably just gonna keep it just like that. Now for the final addition to help with the summer heat, I actually got these Temu rechargeable fans that only cost me like $30, but I would easily pay double for them. These are so nice to have in here because I usually just put them in a window, preferably without direct sunlight. It just gets nice, fresh, cool air in here without having to turn my power on. And now moving on to other things I wanted to upgrade was actually my oven. A problem I had on the road was my food kept getting burnt right in the middle when I used my oven. That's because it only has one burner right in the middle. So when I put my tray right on top of it, it would burn everything in the middle, but cook everything on the outside perfectly fine. Now to help with this, I got an adjustable rack just to make some space between the flame and the food. And then I actually got a pizza baking stone. I placed this right on top of the flame, and it's actually going to help soak up some heat and disperse it evenly. And I've been on the road for a little bit now. This actually worked insanely well. I can cook food no problem now. Oh! So that's actually everything I wanted to add. Now we're moving on to things that need to be fixed, but we can also upgrade at the same time. And I wanted to start out with this stupid ass drawer. Now next up, I'm sure if you guys watch any of my videos, you know that I've dropped this drawer probably at least like 4 times on camera. Oh my god, dude! Fuck those country roads, dude! Why? Fucking why? Why, dude? Oh my! And after falling out that many times, it needs some repairs. And this actually wasn't that hard. I just had to strengthen and repair the drawer itself. I did this with some Gorilla Glue that I poured into the channels. Then I got these nice little brass corner brackets that I just screwed into the drawer, and it kept everything nice and secure. Oh my god. Okay. But the actual channel on the inside of my dresser was completely broken. This happened because they just used these shitty little plastic mounts that just fell apart. So to upgrade it, I made my own wooden frame to actually support the railways of the drawer. So this is absolutely solid right now. None of this is moving. But I noticed from factory, they didn't attach this little board to actually support everything. So I'm gonna attach that, and I'm not actually gonna add a little extra support right here for this side. Yeah, Yeah, I stripped the absolute shit out of that screw. Then I just screwed the railways onto the new frame and popped the drawer in. Now this thing finally won't fall out when I'm just hitting a slight curve. Next up, I want to go into my bathroom and actually fix my shower. The plastic foot pan had a crack in the corner that I actually just covered up with duct tape when I first got Madea. This actually kind of worked because I took a few showers in here and it actually never even leaked. I don't actually think that was leaking. I think that piece of tape was actually sealing it. That does not look bad at all. And the tape's not wet either. So I think that might have been working. But now it's time to actually fix it properly, and I was going to do that with some Flex Seal. I cleaned out the shower and put on my first coat, and then waited for about an hour to do the second. But in that hour, the sealant actually started to dry and clump up. So after putting the second coat on, the final result, it has these little like bumps in the floor that I actually don't mind because it adds a little bit of grip. Now the next thing I wanted to do was actually fix this water leak in my loft. When it rained normally, it actually didn't leak at all, but it feels like an absolute monsoon outside. That's when it would start to leak. And to fix this leak, I'm actually going to replace my roof, but that's going to be later in this video. So right now, I'm just going to hit it with the landlord special. And after I got everything looking pretty, I painted a plywood 4x7 to go over this little gap that I had in my loft. I did this because I actually wanted to change out my mattress. The old foam mattress that I had up here actually had a piece of wood in it that went over this gap, but my new Japanese Shiki Buton is basically just a foam sleeping pad. So of course I needed something flat to lay on, that's why I added this plywood right here. Hang on, there's dirt and shit. I think we're good. And now for my new mattress, it's actually a lot thinner than my old one. But surprisingly, it's a lot more comfortable for me at least. And that's mainly because when you sleep on a big traditional fluffy mattress, your muscles are actually supporting your body and they're actually tensing up and tightening while you sleep. With a thinner mattress, your body's actually going to sink to the floor or to the hard surface you're on, and your skeleton's going to support your body, which of course is going to let your muscles relax and reduce all that tightness and stuff I was talking about. And now that's everything that I wanted to do on the inside, and now it's time to move on to the most ambitious project I've probably ever taken on, and that was replacing my entire roof. So I'm of course replacing the roof for the obvious reason that my loft was leaking, but I also had some water coming in from some previous repairs that I did. Under this Flex Seal are two little cuts in the membrane that were there before I even bought Madea. I patched it about a year ago, and I guess the Flex Seal just didn't do its job of sealing. So on top of all the leaks and water damage I had, the roof, just like everything else, was also from 1999. So it was time to replace it. And the first step in this project is to just take the old roof off. But before I could do that, I had to remove everything holding the roof down. So I started with these little side trim pieces that are held in with just screws and staples. I also had the same type of pieces on the front and back that are also the main thing holding the roof down, so I took those off as well. And some of the old screws on the front piece were actually rusted and completely stripped out, so I just had to drill through them. But nothing really too hard. Next up, I have to take off every single vent or skylight that I had. These are just held in with some screws and butyl, so after some unscrewing and prying, they came off pretty easily. But after getting all my vents off, I still had to get my solar panels and big ass dinosaur AC that I had up here. Luckily my nephews were over while I was working, so after unbolting everything, I made them take the AC and solar panels down. Alright, and then I'm gonna hand it to him. Oh, you might need gloves, it's a little hot. Hold on. He got it.
You got it?
Because I'm gonna kind of hand it off to you guys. I'm good, you're good. Now you come down. We're gonna stay just like this. You come down. Now that was everything holding the roof down. Now it was just time to just grab one end and just start prying. But now that I got the roof off, it was time to inspect and see what type of roof decking I had. There's a few different designs, but the two most popular are just plywood decking. This one's made up with just wooden beams that extend across the roof, usually every 2 feet. Then the gaps are filled in with insulation and then just covered up with traditional plywood or OSB. And everything is held together with just screws, staples, or nails. And this one's typically pretty easy to work on. The other popular method is to make a vacuum sealed sandwich. For example, you would have a Luan plywood piece for your ceiling. Then in the middle, it would consist of like an aluminum frame that also has a bunch of foam insulation surrounding that. Then on top of all that, you have another Luan wood layer to kind of finish it off. And they keep all these materials together with some glue, then they actually vacuum seal it to make it airtight. This one doesn't use any screws, any staples. It's just straight glue that's been vacuum sealed. And you can probably imagine which one's harder to work on. And now it's just time to see what type of design my roof was. Oh God. Oh, it's fucking vacuum glued. It's vacuum glued. And this being my first time replacing a roof, and this now being the hardest roof you can replace, it really just sunk in that I had no idea what I was doing. So I took the night and pondered how I was actually going to replace this roof, and the next morning I had a plan. Alright, so what we're going to do is every single spot where there's water damage, we're just going to take all that shitty loose stuff that's coming out right now. I'm going to go over it with just a bunch of wood. That's 2.7 millimeters. Like I said, we're just going to glue it over. But then we're going to use liquid nails to kind of fill in these little gaps and kind of half-ass shim it, because it's only like, I think maybe a millimeter or two. Yeah, so this plan kind of sucked, but it also did work. Using liquid nails to fill in that 1 millimeter gap I just showed you guys did actually work, but I still used the liquid nails for the bigger parts of the roof that weren't damaged. But since I laid it out in S shape, I had parts where I had no glue at all, and because of this, I ended up having air bubbles in my roof decking. But after I devised this beautiful plan, I still had another problem, and that was the fact that my roof was actually 8 feet and 2 inches. Which is a lot. 2 inches is a lot. So with the 8-foot boards I had, if I just laid them down, I would still have an extra 2 inches on the sides. To fix this, I actually just laid one board down vertically, then flipped another board horizontally and cut it to size. I ended up having to use more boards because of this, and it did work well, but this will lead to problems later. But I still had to finish this roof. So like I said, I started ripping out all the water damage areas, and if you're wondering why I didn't just rip up the entire board and replace the entire board, the glue that's in between the top layer and the foam insulation is like very strong, and when I tried to take a board off that was already pretty damaged, it was also ripping out the foam insulation. So now that the roof was nice and clean, it was time to start gluing and stapling the new boards down. Like I showed you earlier, I used liquid nails in an S pattern, but I also did use some staples I drove into the aluminum frame to help keep the board down. And for my vents, I simply just cut out the holes before I glued the boards down. And after getting this first board in right here, I actually started to feel a little bit better about this project, so I just put my head down and got every other board installed. So now the actual wooden roof decking is done, but since I hand cut all these boards, I actually had gaps in between each one. A popular solution for this that I saw online was to use fiber tape to kind of cover up the gaps. This does work, but the gap is still there. So when you actually apply your membrane glue, when you're rolling your actual membrane on, there's nothing for the glue to actually sink into and adhere to. So in my final result, I actually had some gaps and creases. So from my personal experience, I actually wouldn't have used the fiber tape right here. I would have actually used wood filler and just leveled it all flat. But along with the fiber tape, I also put some duct tape around all the edges. This was to make sure the sharp corners of the wood didn't actually cut through the roof itself, especially when you're driving with constant vibrations. And now that was it for the roof decking. I made sure it was nice and clean, and then it was actually time to install the membrane itself. I went with a TPO roof that I got from an RV surplus store about 3 hours away from me. And while I was there, I got all the glue, screws, and other supplies that I needed for this project. And in total, I spent around $500 there. You can also buy the same type of kit off of Amazon for the same price, but when it's delivered off of Amazon, it is folded. And when you have a folded roof, you're gonna have creases and kinks that you will never get out. So if you are going to do your own roof, make sure you get it rolled. But now I got my new membrane all measured up. It was actually time to start gluing and to start rolling it out. You can see right here, I actually started with the glue. I did about 1.5 feet per pass, and then I would actually just roll the membrane over it and make sure there's no air bubbles or gaps in it. And luckily, I did have my parents to help me with this step too. And then I just repeated this process until I was done. And after I was done rolling my new membrane out, I actually went to the sides and stapled the actual roof itself to the fiberglass walls. This was actually just hold down the roof while I let it dry. And after waiting 3 days, I went back to the sides and attached those trim pieces I took off at the start. Like I said earlier, these are just held in with screws, but I also made sure to add some nice new butyl to make sure none of the screws would actually leak. And after getting both of the sides done, I actually moved to the top and attached the front trim piece. Once again, this is just screws and butyl. But for this rear trim piece, it only extends about 2/3 of the roof, and that's because the skylight is actually going to hold the roof down. I'm not sure if this is the best design, but I actually never had any leaks or problems back here, so I'm just going to assume that it works good. But after getting all those trim pieces installed, the roof is finally secure. So now it's time to move on to installing the vents. All you gotta do for this is just cut into the membrane in an X shape. I actually kept some of the extra membrane and overlapped it in the vent holes just to give me some extra insurance in case something does leak. And you would never guess what I used to install all these vents. Next up, I had to install my poop vents. I went with these rotating style ones I got off of Amazon. And if you own an RV or trailer, I would recommend these over everything else. Trust me, they actually work. They actually pull air out of the tanks instead of putting air into the tanks like other designs do. Now the only thing I had left was my solar panels and AC. For my solar panels, I just bolted them straight to the aluminum frame and caulked off of the bolt heads. And for my AC, I actually bought a new gasket kit off of Amazon to help seal everything up better. Then after installing that, I just lifted it onto my roof and retorqued it from the inside. Why is that one so fucking bad? And now everything is actually installed. So for the final step, I put some lap sealant on every single bolt or crease. This actually doesn't seal anything, but it helps divert water and stops the bolts and screws from rusting. And now I was finally done. I had a few more things that I had to install or upgrade that weren't even on the roof or were just like little parts of the roof, but I'm not going to bore you with all those little things. And now Madea is finally ready. She's all upgraded and ready to get back on the road. So I gave her one last bath before we set out on our next trip. But before I left, I want to give you guys a little tour. So now I'm finally done doing all the work for Madea. This took me, honestly, a long time and a lot of money, but we're done. I mean, this is the front right here. You come around, it's still the front. It's a normal E350. But once you actually get to the motorhome side, we got a camera up top. I can view people on my phone whenever. Of course, we got the reflectors. When you come down, this is my propane. I typically just fill it up at like an Ace Hardware or even like a Tractor Supply Co. And then we come right next to it. This is what I like to call my shed. This has got my water hose for filling up, my poop tubes to drain everything. It's also got gold pans. I'm gonna try gold panning while I'm out in the Rockies. And we keep coming. Door, windows beautifully sealed. We got my step up, which is absolutely destroyed because I ran over a median in Virginia. And then we come up top. This is my fridge. Works great, especially when I have the propane running. Stove vent, window, water heater, that's busted and doesn't work, so that's nice. But once you come into the back, it's a back. There's a ladder. I got running lights, spare tire, which is new. And I actually have a oil pan back here, so I can do oil changes when I'm on the road. And now this is actually where I dump my black water and gray water tanks when I'm on the road, so I can just boondock wherever. And we come to the side. gas tank. It's like a 50-gallon gas tank. And now this is my power hookup. I can just plug in wherever I am. And then we also have the furnace right here. That works great. We got my spare / house battery. And then we have what I like to call my garage. This is all my tools. This has actually got some waders in it. My jack stands, all that stuff. And we come here. This is my generator. Generator does not work well at all. It turns over, but it's like rusted to shit. And we also got these little things right here. This is where I fill up on water. This is where I can connect a hose if I don't want to keep filling up on water. And this is where I can actually drain everything if I have bad water. And now we actually move on to the inside. This is what I like to call my porch. This is just where I put on my shoes. I also got a fishing pole and a fire extinguisher from 1998 that I don't even know if it works. And now right next to my porch, I got my gaming setup while I'm on the road. I got a 4K OLED 240 Hertz monitor. I got an Asus laptop with a 5070. This is actually just a generic IKEA desk that I just strapped everything down, which is like bungee cords. And you can see down there, I got my 210 subs. Those have seen a lot of use on the road. It definitely helps having a nice sound system. And you can see I also have my drawers, which is just held in by a literal stick. And then you come up top, these are just the normal shelves that come with the motorhome. This is just a bunch of spare parts for ceiling and light bulbs and all of that. Make sure I don't have problems on the road. And then we come here, these are just books. I also got documents, screws, and more spare parts. And now we actually move over to my loft. This was a little, nice little addition I actually found out while I was on the road. It was just a blanket, just covers everything, adds nice insulation. And I typically just jump up from my desk up here and I chill out, sleep. I got these nice little vents that block out a lot of light, especially compared to the first ones that I had. But I mean, it's a bed up here. I got blankets. I actually got fans for when it gets really hot. Those are rechargeable fans. And yeah, it's a bed. So, oh, and I got nice little curtains, so I can block everything out. There's also one right here. And then coming on the other side, I got more shelves. That's all my camera gear, like literally just camera gear. And we got the other shelf right here. This is just sweaters, pants, bigger clothes. And then we come down. We got a fold-out couch for anybody who hangs out, sleeps over. And then this is actually where my fresh water tank is. And now from the ceiling, we got our solar wires coming in. This is my solar controller. Make sure it's a clean voltage. And then we also come over here. This is my closet. It's just jackets, backpacking stuff, pajamas. It's a closet. But then we come down here. This is more clothes. This is actually the drawer that I fixed earlier. And we can actually take that out, and that's my battery system right there. I got 4 100 amp hour lithium batteries that I got hooked up. And that actually connects to a pure sine wave 1500 watt inverter that I just plugged into the default or like stock RV hookup. So everything that works when you're plugged in works when I'm on the road as well. And now coming from the closet, we got the beginning of the kitchen right here. We got this drawer, shoes and power tools. And then we actually got the freezer that runs completely on propane, so I can have food, like nice food, while I'm on the road. You can see I'm actually stocked up right now. And then it comes to this bottom shelf. This is kind of like my nasty, dirty rags and jumpers and kind of just the trash drawer, I guess. And then we come to the pantry right here. This is like napkins, silverware, supplements, seasoning, canned food, and then we also got a lot of snacks in here. So I'm about to be snacking on them trails. And then we got my microwave, which I do not use on the road. That's just all like my dry foods and stuff that I keep in here. We got my exhaust, stove, oven, all work great. Then we come to my shelves over here. I got lids in here. This is my main chunk of food. There's also some water. And then we also do have like plates, cups. This is just basic kitchen stuff, blender bottles. And we come down to the sink. This works great. Water pump works great. I've sanitized my tank plenty of times. I got the dish soap that I just keep with a little sticky thing right there. And then we come down. This is all my cleaning supplies. We also have my silverware. That's all my oven mitts and extra cloths. Oh, and also this is where I keep all my pots and pans under my stove. And this drawer is completely broken, so I just put it back there. And now from the kitchen, we got the bathroom. That's where I keep my towels. And then to the left, we got my shower. You can see I got the blocked off skylight. And then honestly, I really don't use the shower much. So I just keep my trash, recyclables, and extra bags right there. Then we come out. This is my toilet. It works good. It's a toilet. We got a nice little mirror right there. And then we got the Bertha wall. If any of you guys remember Bertha, she got me home, but she was in really bad shape. And then from here, it's kind of just a generic basic bathroom. I got personal hygiene, bunch of spare personal hygiene, and then we also got like laundry detergent and just like medical supplies in here. And now that's going to be it for the inside. For the actual driver cab, we of course got the captain's seat. We got the dash, the nice little radio I put in a while ago, and then we actually have the doghouse, which I keep probably $20 just in change right there. And then I also have a bunch of spare like mechanical parts. I just keep that there because I'd be riding solo. And now that's pretty much it. This is what I'm living in when I'm on the road. And speaking of living on the road, today I'm actually starting my Northwest trip. I'm actually driving to Iowa today. So next time I see you guys is going to be Iowa. So I'll see you till then. Did you train today? Did you train today?
My brothers move a lot like strangers. Oh my.